What's going on, guys, in the works? And we're playing a little bit of Canals TDM today, and this is something you don't see a ton of on my channel, mainly because I feel like if you're watching a Battlefield 3 video, there's probably a 30% chance that it's going to be on Canals TDM. I mean, I don't know why that is. It's just everybody loves playing on this map. But for the purpose of this video, I was like, okay, there's not a better map out there to kind of show my point than this map, because there's a lot of long lines of sight, there's a lot of close range engagements, there's just a lot of scenarios that you can put yourself in that makes it a really good area to showcase a weapon. I think that's probably why so many YouTubers use it. I try to stay away from it, but for the purpose of this video I think it works perfectly, because we're going to be talking about the magazine fed LMGs. We're going to be using the M27 just to kind of highlight my example, but it goes for all magazine fed LMGs, the L86, the RPK, the QBB, what's the other one? The M36? MG36? Yeah, I think that's what it is. I always want to call it the M36, but it is the MG36. So it goes for all the magazine-fed LMGs. And what makes it magazine-fed? Well, if you pull a magazine out and slam it back into your LMG, you're probably using a magazine-fed weapon. If you open it up and lay the belt down, it's probably a belt-fed LMG. So there's a big choice though that you have to make when you're using a magazine fed. Do you want to go with extended mags, or you want to go with heavy barrel? Because heavy barrel is a very, very useful attachment, especially on the M27, because the M27 has a pretty solid fire rate. It's a pretty good weapon overall. I think the M27 is probably the most popular magazine fed LMG. I think I could probably make that assumption because I see a lot of people using it. But a lot of people like to go with extended mags, and a lot of people always ask me, what should I go with in my magazine-fed LMG? Should I go with the extended mags and get a ton of rounds like you see me using here? I've got 61 rounds at my disposal if you have one in the chamber. Or should I go with the heavy barrel, which is going to give me better accuracy, and it's also going to make it so that my damage drop-off is a little bit slower. So you're going to hold your damage at range much better with the heavy barrel. You're going to get more of your bullets on target. But if you're a spray and pray kind of guy, like you see me do that a lot in the early parts of this video just because I do have extended mags on, I feel like extended mags definitely are going to benefit you more. You've got a lot of rounds at your disposal, considering that this thing reloads pretty quickly, considering how many rounds you get to begin with. So there's a lot of choices to be made. I get a lot of questions about this, and I'm going to be switching to the heavy barrel here, so you guys can kind of get an idea of me using the extended mags and then the differences with the heavy barrel. So from this point forth in the video, it will be with the heavy barrel, just to clear up any confusion. But heavy barrel, what exactly benefit-wise are you getting with this thing? Now, I'm going to talk about the M27, but this can translate over to most of the magazine-fed LMGs. But I want to use the M27 as an example because I think it's the one that most people are familiar with. It's one of the first ones you unlock. I mean, it's like the default, LMG on the support class. So if you've never played support and you hop on there, you can use this weapon right away. But naked, this thing only has an aim down sight accuracy of 0.4. But if you slap the heavy barrel on it, it goes up to 0.2, which at that point you're basically having a glorified assault rifle. I mean, if you're just using the default magazine, you've got plenty of rounds. You're pretty accurate with this thing, so heavy barrel definitely increases it quite substantially. But in my eyes, the biggest advantage doesn't necessarily come in accuracy, because a lot of people can be accurate with weapons no problem. It's not always a huge deal to be accurate with weapons that have a bigger spread. You just got to be a little bit more patient with your shots. The big advantage comes in that it has a quicker time to kill. Between about 35 meters and 50 meters, it has a substantially higher time to kill because it does hold its damage much longer. Once you get outside of the 50-meter range, though, the heavy barrel's really not giving you much advantage besides more accurate. So at that point, it's nice when you go outside in those bigger ranges to have a more accurate weapon. So you could say that it's more of a latent advantage, and that's why I personally prefer to use the heavy barrel on these weapons over the extended mags, especially on the M27. Now, if you get in there with like the L86, which does reload a little bit slower, sometimes you might want to consider using the extended mags just because it does have a slower reload. But I personally I found that all of these magazine-fed LMGs just work a substantial amount better if you put the heavy barrel on it, because at that point you're just using an assault rifle that essentially has more rounds. Now, if you're trying to hold down a corridor, if you're trying to lock people down in a certain area, that's when you really have to consider, is heavy barrel really going to benefit me that much? Especially on maps like Operation Metro. Now, Metro does have some long lines of sight, and it's all about time to kill on Metro. A lot of times, if you're in the wrong positioning, you'll get smoked with some of these magazine-fed LMGs just because people have AEKs, F2000s, even the M16 can outshoot a couple of them. So you definitely don't want to be taking those head on. You want to be positioned correctly with enough ammo to suppress them to the point where they can't really fire back at you. The lockers are a great example. If they try to come around the corner in the lockers and you're bipoded down with an extended mag, magazine fed LMG, most likely they're not really going to pose much threat to you because you're going to be able to hold them down much quicker. You're going to be able to have enough ammo to where, you know, 3 or 4 people run around the corner, you're probably going to mow them down. Whereas if you're going for long range shots like you see me doing here, most likely you're going to just want heavy barrel. And in my experiences, it's just overall a better attachment. I find myself in more situations where I'm benefiting from the heavy barrel itself than I would with extended mags, even on the L86. The L86 is a weapon that you can play really aggressive with, and I think the heavy barrel just complements it much better. RPK, another pretty good example of something that, you know, you're probably going to do a lot better if you have the heavy barrel on it, but I can see the temptation if you like to fire from the hip a lot, if you like to spray and pray, if you like to just suppress people, I can see the temptation to really lean on the extended mags. But if you look at the stats of the weapons, you really get a pretty big buff when you put this heavy barrel on it. It turns these weapons from being very inaccurate at range. You know, like I was saying with the M27, it's a .4 weapon when aiming down sights. You put the heavy barrel on it, it goes to .2. That's a big increase, guys. That's a lot more of your bullets hitting the target. If you look at any sort of, like, you know, spread chart on the aim down sight accuracy on the M27, you're going to see that it becomes a monster. So you can kill people much quicker with the heavy barrel, but it's really going to be situational. You're going to have to sit down and ask yourself, you know, am I going to want to play really aggressive with it? You know, am I going to be spraying a lot from the hip, or am I going to be more of an, you know, a precision shot? Am I going to be trying to kill people quicker at range? And that should help you kind of guide you on whether or not you should use heavy barrel or extended mags on these magazine fed LMGs. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. I know this is a question that's been brought up a ton on some of the comments of my videos talking about the magazine fed weapons. So hopefully this helped to make it your life a little bit easier. But if you missed my past videos, here's a chance to catch up, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.